Hello. Local councils and drivers are counting the cost tonight of the big freeze, which has left many of the region's roads ravaged by potholes.
For a while it looked as if the worst was over, but today there were more wintry showers. In the west of the region it brought more problems for schools and people trying to get around. And the sub-zero start to the year has left its mark on our roads. In a moment, what you can do if your car is damaged by a pothole. But first, this report from Stuart Ratcliffe.
This was the snowy scene in Northampton this morning. It brought misery to many motorists, and it didn't do much to raise a smile at the county council either, as more freezing temperatures mean more of these. Now, those potholes you can see behind me here on the Wellingborough Road in Northampton, they were due to be filled in today by the county's maintenance team, but because of the weather, those teams are out gritting the roads. Northamptonshire County Council says it was promised £5 million by the government to pay for last winter's pothole repairs, money it has yet to see, and without it, the council says it will now have to divert money from other projects.
For us, that's really frustrating. We don't have the pot of money that government have access to. We're not in a position where we can just print some extra money. The money has to come from somewhere, and it'll have to be taken out of something else because we will have to repair the roads.
This year, the council says it has just £1.8 million set aside for winter repairs, but says realistically to make good the county's network of 2,500 miles of roads, it would need £18 million. The scale of this problem is recognised by pothole campaigner Peter Collier. In his hometown of Rushden alone, he's collected snaps of over 400 potholes.
It's becoming very difficult to drive a car, and certainly almost impossible to ride a bike or a motorbike without driving through or over a pothole or a dangerous ridge in the road.
But the cost of potholes doesn't just extend to repairing them, they can result in legal costs too. Alan Digby Cameron successfully sued Bedford Borough Council after a pothole damaged his car.
My car front wheel went down a pothole, fairly, fair shock. Carried on to the next safe place to change the tyre, and noticed that the tyre and wheel was damaged beyond repair.
So once the big freeze is over and the extent of the damage to our roads is truly known, it could be legal departments within local councils and not their gritting teams working around the clock. Stuart Ratcliffe, BBC Look East.
Well, let's talk now to Jeremy Ives, a solicitor specialising in personal injury. When can you sue either the Highways Authority or the local council, and when can't you?
Well, the local authority, it's usually either the district council or the county council or the highways agency if it's a really big road. They're the people who you do need to complain to if there's a problem. But they're not automatically liable, which people think they are, but they're simply not.
So when are they and when aren't they?
Well, the Highways Act 1980, Section 41, actually says that they are responsible to maintain the highway, but they have an automatic get-out in Section 58 of that legislation, because if they have acted in a way where they've taken a duty of care, that they have acted reasonably to maintain the highway, then they have an automatic defence to any claim that's brought. And they normally do that by a system of inspection and repair.
So if they can say, if we went and inspected this road and there was no pothole there last week, but there is one there this week, that's reasonable and the judge is going to throw the case out?
Yes, that could be the case. The inspection regime is bigger depending on the traffic loading for that particular road. So the more busy the road, then the more frequent the inspections.
And the number of potholes we're likely to get after a big freeze is going to make it their duty of care. They're going to be given some leeway, presumably.
Well, they will be given some leeway, but I'm quite sure that the thing is, if they are notified of a given pothole in a given place and that it's dangerous, then they have a responsibility then to go and deal with it.
Don't we have a duty of care as drivers not to go in potholes?
Well, yes, we do, and I suppose there are elements of contributory negligence there, but the real issue is that I think if you see a very big pothole, that you should phone up the local authority and tell them, and then they have a responsibility to go along and at least do a temporary repair anyway for the time being.
Isn't one of the problems that we as a nation now are too happy to sue anybody?
Well, I think that's the theory. The practice is rather different to that. We're not suing so many people as I think the media, with the greatest respect, think that we are, and if we are, then the chances of success in that litigation is a lot less than I think a lot of the public think that it is.
Mr. Ives, thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome, thank you.
A murder jury was warned today that it would be hearing shocking evidence about the killing of a man whose body was chopped up and dumped in the countryside. It's claimed that the murder was carried out by a man and his girlfriend who intended to assume the victim's identity so they could plunder his bank account. After the killing, the pair are accused of cutting up the body and disposing of various parts at different locations, mostly in Hertfordshire. Our reporter Nikki Jenkins is at St Albans Crown Court now.
Well, graphic and shocking, yes, but a lot of the evidence not in dispute. 38-year-old Stephen Marshall has pleaded guilty to perverting the course of justice by dismembering and distributing Geoffrey Howe's body. He appeared relaxed and even laughed and joked from time to time with the guards in court as details of this horrific crime began to be revealed. Sitting impassive next to him, Sarah Bush, a woman who was his girlfriend, a woman who was working as a prostitute, a woman who was barely out of her teens at the time this happened. 49-year-old Geoffrey Howe was murdered and dismembered in his own home, the court heard. Stephen Marshall and Sarah Bush, not content with living there rent-free, had concocted a plan to take his life, his identity and all that he owned. The couple have travelled to and from court separately, but the prosecution say they were in this together and throughout. That he stabbed Mr. Howe in the back while she put a pillow over his face to stop the noise. But it was another 2 weeks before the first body part, a leg, was found near Cotterid. And then over the next 3 weeks, a series of gruesome discoveries by innocent members of the public. A forearm at Wheathampstead, the other leg at Puckeridge, and the torso near Standon. Only the head was found outside Hertfordshire. It was disfigured in such a way the jury was told that it showed work of skill and precision and had been carried out by someone who had boasted he had considerable experience of disposing of murdered bodies. Well, just to remind you then, Stephen Marshall has pleaded not guilty to murder in this case, although he admits being part of the clear-up, if you like. He blames Sarah Bush and says he wasn't in the flat on the night it happened. She, by contrast, has pleaded not guilty to every charge before her. She admits that Marshall had told her that he'd dismembered the body, but says she wasn't there at the time of the murder. This case is expected to last for around another 4 weeks.
Nikki, thank you very much.
Well, lots more to come.